In times when the world trembled, when kingdoms clashed and the hearts of men drifted far from their Creator, a single voice rose amidst the darkness. It did not come from palaces or courts. It came from a humble village, from a heart deeply attuned to the whispers of heaven. This is the story of Jeremiah, the weeping prophet. A man of flesh and fears, doubts and dreams, chosen for a divine mission. To carry the voice of God when no one wanted to listen. And though the world rejected him, his message outlived empires. Today, his tears still water the seeds of hope. Welcome to the life of Jeremiah, a testament to courage, faith, heartbreak, and restoration. Born in a time of falling shadows. In the small town of Anathoth, just a few kilometers north of the bustling and corrupted Jerusalem, a child was born. The year was approximately 650 BC, a time of political intrigue, spiritual decay, and cultural collapse. His father, Hilkiah, was a faithful priest. His mother, unnamed in scripture, likely raised Jeremiah amidst the sacred traditions of Israel, teaching him the stories of Abraham, Moses, and David, men who walked with God. As a child, Jeremiah would have wandered the stone streets of Anathoth, hearing the distant noises of Jerusalem's festivities, its idol worship, its political deals. Yet in his village, simplicity reigned. A last bastion of ancient devotion. From a young age, Jeremiah learned the sacred rhythms. The reading of the law. The recitation of psalms. The sacrifices that pointed toward the holiness of God. The boy grew strong not in body, but in spirit. Little did he know that God had already written his name into history before he had even breathed his first breath. A call before birth. One day, during the 13th year of King Josiah's reign, when Jeremiah was perhaps no older than 20, the sky over Anathoth seemed just as blue as any other day. But inside his soul, a thunder shook. The word of the Lord came to me, Jeremiah recalls. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah 1 verse 5. Imagine his shock. A village boy, scarcely a man, told he was chosen before the beginning of time to speak to kings, kingdoms, and peoples? Terrified, Jeremiah protested. Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak, I am too young. But heaven silenced his fears. Do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. And then, in a moment beyond words, God touched his mouth. I have put my words in your mouth. It was no longer Jeremiah who would speak. It would be the voice of God burning through a mortal frame. A voice in the wilderness. Armed with divine authority, yet trembling with human weakness, Jeremiah began his mission. He preached first during the hopeful reign of King Josiah, a reformer who tried to pull Judah back from the brink. Josiah rediscovered the book of the law, tore down the high places of idol worship, and tried to lead the nation back to its God. But Jeremiah saw deeper than politics. He knew reforming rituals meant nothing without reforming hearts. He cried out in the streets. They have forsaken the spring of living water and dug their own broken cisterns. Jeremiah 2 verse 13. He warned not only against idol worship but against injustice. The oppression of the foreigner, the widow, and the orphan. The shedding of innocent blood in the courts. The pursuit of greed, corruption, and selfishness. The temple was still standing. The sacrifices continued. But Jeremiah saw the truth, the people's hearts had become tombs. Rejection, betrayal, and the weight of loneliness. Not everyone welcomed Jeremiah's message. In fact, few did. His hometown of Anathoth plotted his death. The priests of Jerusalem scoffed. False prophets accused him of treason. You shall not prophesy in the name of the Lord, or you will die by our hands, they threatened. Even when Jeremiah tried to stay silent, the word burned inside him like fire. But if I say, I will not mention him, his word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in, indeed, I cannot. Jeremiah 20 verse 9. He was mocked, beaten, imprisoned. Yet he did not stop. He spoke because truth demanded it, even if truth meant standing utterly alone. Signs and symbols, the dramatized word. Jeremiah's prophecies were not only spoken. They were lived. God commanded him to act out symbolic parables. A ruined linen belt, symbolizing Israel's decay. A shattered clay jar, prophesying Jerusalem's complete destruction. A yoke around his neck, representing the unavoidable Babylonian domination. These signs were more than theatrics. They were God's desperate cries to a people too stubborn to listen. Jeremiah's life itself became the sermon. The collapse of a nation. The death of Josiah brought darker times. Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah, each king more corrupt and foolish than the last, led Judah to ruin. False prophets promised peace. Politicians clung to Egypt, hoping for salvation. Jeremiah alone stood firm, proclaiming, "Surrender to Babylon or face total destruction." For this, he was called a traitor. He was thrown into a muddy cistern, left to die of starvation. But even there, God raised a deliverer. Ebed-melech, a foreigner, and a eunuch, rescued Jeremiah from the pit. As Babylon tightened its noose around Jerusalem, Jeremiah continued to weep and warn. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. And still, they would not listen. Fire and ashes, the fall of Jerusalem. In 586 BC, after 18 agonizing months of siege, famine, and horror, Jerusalem fell. The temple, Solomon's grand masterpiece, was burned. The palace was reduced to ashes. The city's walls crumbled under Babylon's assault. Zedekiah fled but was captured. He witnessed the execution of his sons before having his own eyes gouged out, a fulfillment of both Jeremiah's and Ezekiel's prophecies. Most survivors were dragged in chains to Babylon. The kingdom of Judah, after centuries of existence, ceased to be. Amid the ruins stood Jeremiah, alone, heartbroken, but faithful. He wrote the Book of Lamentations, crying out, "How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. Bitterly she weeps at night, tears are on her cheeks." Lamentations 1 verses 1 to 2. Yet even in his sorrow, hope flickered. Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning, great is your faithfulness. Lamentations 3 verses 22 to 23. The last test, Egypt and betrayal. After Jerusalem's fall, Jeremiah was offered safety and comfort in Babylon. He refused. He chose instead to remain with the broken remnant left behind. But chaos reigned. Gedaliah, the Babylonian-appointed governor, was assassinated. Panic spread. The remnant fled to Egypt, dragging Jeremiah with them against his will. In Egypt, even as an old man, Jeremiah never ceased to speak God's truth. He warned them that idolatry would follow them into death. But the people's hearts were hardened beyond redemption. Jewish tradition says Jeremiah was eventually murdered in Egypt, stoned to death by his own countrymen. A legacy of hope. Jeremiah's life seemed, from human eyes, a tragic failure. No great revivals. No happy endings. No triumphs. Yet heaven saw differently. Through Jeremiah, God gave promises that still shape eternity. 1. The New Covenant. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. Jeremiah 31 verse 33. 2. The return from exile. When 70 years are completed, I will come to you and fulfill my good promise. Jeremiah 29 verse 10. 3. The righteous branch. I will raise up for David a righteous branch, a king who will reign wisely. Jeremiah 23 verse 5. For Christians, these promises find their ultimate fulfillment in Jesus Christ, the new covenant in his blood. The world Jeremiah faced was dark, chaotic, and broken. Sound familiar? In our own days of turmoil, his story calls to us. Speak the truth, even if your voice trembles. Weep for what breaks the heart of God. Hope in the mercies that are new every morning. Though empires crumble and idols fall, the word of the Lord endures forever. If this story touched your heart, please #subscribe for more Bible-based stories and life-changing inspiration. #like this video to help others discover the message. #share this story with someone who needs hope today. #comment below, what part of Jeremiah's story spoke to you the most?